and welcome to B2B Breakfast to Business. This is an amazing, bright and shiny Monday morning with your morning girl, Bea Lim, and the managing director of Team Asia. Now, we are on our second season of our B2B podcast, and our goal really is to make sure that we get you guys to be in the know in the now. And so for the past couple of episodes, we're already running on our seventh. We wanted to really get into the groove of things, get real life stories and whatnot. And just last week, we were even talking about a very personal and important, milestone in Team Asia's life, in this pandemic. And that was really an episode on how we've had to let our Team Asia headquarters go, our on-ground facilities, shifted to the online space and a small satellite office so that we can not only adapt and survive in this now normal, but also, of course, thrive, because that is our goal. Never give up, never surrender. And so if you have not checked out that episode, please do so. It's called Home is Where the Passion Is. We would love to know your thoughts on it. And we would love to, really discuss it more, especially for those people who are also experiencing it. Now, so just last weekend, I got a ton of recommendations to watch this documentary on Netflix. Because it was something that was so riveting, something so relevant, and people were just messaging me left and right about it, right? And it's called The Social Dilemma. Now, I believe a lot of you guys have already seen this. If you haven't, please do so. It's pretty cool and very, very thought-provoking, mind-blowing. It makes you think a lot. And so when I got the recommendations, I said, okay, why not? I would love to watch this documentary. It came highly recommended by friends and family. And so I did. And when I watched the documentary, all I could think about was, this is it. These are the things that we talk about in circles, like the what ifs, the is someone listening to us, or what does this button do, and whatnot. So we've been talking about how social media has actually really changed the way we do things, our behavior, and our viewpoints of different things. But we haven't really delved deep into it. I feel like it's hush conversations, or it's an article that you see on your feed, and it makes you think for a while, but it stays there. I'm not sure if we are having a lot of conversations around it. And so when this documentary came out, and as I was listening, I saw such a huge potential for us to talk about it and to continue the conversations, because it's so important. Not only is it relevant, but it is necessary to really talk about this, because we are all in this space. And especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, we are thrown into the social and virtual space even more. So I didn't want to just talk about the Social Dilemma documentary on my own. I wanted to be able to gather thoughts and really talk about this expanded, subject, and really bring it about, really just give it a little bit more flavor, right? And so I wanted to bring in someone who, would be the perfect person to talk to about this documentary. I could not think about anybody else who would be perfect to do this social commentary on the social dilemma. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge over there. So I have with me here a digital native. He's been around forever. He's been in tech. He's been in socials. He's been in digital. He's one of the digital guys of the Philippines. And he is the head of business development of Manila Bulletin. But my favorite designation of this guy is actually that he's my cousin extraordinaire. And I love just talking about so many things with him. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on our B2B podcast, Mr. JV Fernandez. Hey, JV.
Hey, cuz. Hey, Bea,
Hello,
how are
hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. I am protecting myself against the social media. Ay nako.
So we've
It's
we've
ano,
go ahead.
it's I watched it, and it I guess it really just for those who haven't seen the show, it's a 1 hour 30-minute documentary on Netflix, and it basically talks about all the algorithms behind all your favorite social networks like Facebook, Instagram, and how they're all interconnected with each other. Um, so yeah, I come from a place where, in a way, this is stuff that, yeah, I know this, but it's never become mainstream until now when
Yeah.
it came out on Netflix, which is a huge irony because Netflix does exactly the same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like all of those little news that we get on, like, what movies they're pushing out and what they're saying on Twitter, right? So JV, I watched it, you watched it. When we were talking on Viber just the other day, we were like, hey, we need to talk about this, right? And we felt
Yeah, we
like
need to. Yeah.
we needed an expanded conversation. But before we even go into the, like, how we want to expand that conversation further, I really wanted to get your first thoughts on it. Like, I shared earlier that my first thought was, yep, this is what we know. This is what we know. It's just that, it's hush hush conversations. Like what you said, it's not mainstream. People are not talking about it a lot. There are articles here and there, but you don't get to really sit on it and wonder if you're gonna change or quote unquote protect yourself from social media. So, what were your initial thoughts when you watched the documentary? Go ahead.
Okay, one of the things that I found really, really effective in that documentary was that they actually had the resource people were actually former employees, and not just an engineer here and there. These were the VP of something, and the guy who designed the like button, the guy who designed Gmail. And it seems like at that time, we're out there to change the world. We're looking at circa 2006 to 2009,
Yeah.
right? When back then Facebook was just Farmville, right? At that time. So it was very innocent. There was no talk about, political dissent or of these far left or far right groups taking over or trolling, like organized trolling. Um, I feel that when they put in these people, it really gave extra weight that, these guys, like, look, we were part of this thing. We had no idea it would become this. So we left. And now we're telling everyone that we kind of created like a monster. There was a particular part in the documentary where I forgot who it was. One of them was saying, like, how everyone is talking about how in the future artificial intelligence will just take over the machines, and then it's going to become like the Terminator movie and or the Matrix, and they're gonna destroy mankind because of war and all that. Actually, it's already happening, but it's not going to be a physical war. It's going to be a psychological war where people are competing for where companies are competing for attention. um Even to the most basic online activities such as email. Like, how do you keep a guy hooked to your email? Like, now, if you look at Gmail, right, they integrated chat,
Yep.
meet, and email into one app. So it's, yeah, how to keep you there. It really makes it. A lot of people say that, yeah, it makes it more efficient, so on and so forth. But actually, if you think about it, it's all they really want to do is to keep you hooked on the app.
Correct. No, absolutely. Like, you brought out one of the things that they said, right? On, it becoming like the Matrix movie. Actually, one of the things that really, really gripped me during when I was watching the documentary was when they were alluding to the Matrix, and then they said, how do you get out of the Matrix when you don't even know you're in it?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
And I was like, no, like, it's so funny because like what you said, we know it, right? We know it. We are not only users of social media or any of these apps and technologies, but we're also people who know the business, and we are also all part of this ecosystem now. So you kind of know it, but at the same time, you are brought into this conversation that it does change the very things that we do, like what you said, the most mundane things. It's not just something that is separate that you only see 2 to 3 hours a day. It's deeply ingrained in our system now. To expand on what you said, JV, like when I was watching the documentary, three things actually came to mind. Okay. Like, if me, I'm a lit major. So I was like thinking, okay, what's the social dilemma if I were to like break it down, right? And then I sort of like saw a funnel. Like, at the core dilemma really is that social media or any of these apps or whatnot, or the tech, is all about the dilemma with us, with ourselves, like how it affects us, how it changes our behavior, how it like really drives our actions, right? And the like. And then it escalates, right, into the second layer, which is that it is a ecosystem dilemma wherein business, product, and whatnot come into play. Like before, if we were to think product or services in marketing and advertising, right? It's a tangible product. You see it, you sell it, and then now you suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm a product.
Yes,
And
you're the
so that suddenly changes the dynamic or the ecosystem on a second level, right? And then the third level is exactly what you said, the social dilemma, the society dilemma, which is how is this impacting or affecting how we consume not only content, but how we actually view different policies, political agenda, how we take sides in different issues that affect the world, information versus disinformation, perception versus reality, and the list goes on and on and on, right? But the question
yeah.
really is, what is the social dilemma, right? So that was the question I kept on going back to, and I want to know your thoughts on it, JV. Like after watching the documentary, and you've been around the digital space, you know this inside out. Yeah, to you, what is the dilemma, right?
I feel like, so the dilemma is that you know how it's like food. Like we really love coffee, and yes, coffee is healthy because it gives you all the antioxidants. But too much coffee, you might get heartburn or acid reflux. Um, it's the same with social media, and um, I think other forms of, like, I don't want to say entertainment anymore because social media is a completely different animal. Is social media entertainment? It's not. It's what you and I used to post photos. I send you. You see photos of my nephew, of your nephew, and it's like you like it. That's how we keep in touch. But at the same time, it's the same space where you have the right wings or the left wings, and then they suddenly pop up in your feed as a suggested post, or you accidentally click on an ad somewhere else and it appears as a remarketing thing here. Or the funniest part, especially when you're doing like market research, and like, yeah, I need to click on these weird ads. Then, oh no, it's following me.
And it becomes
Right?
everywhere. Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I don't need feminine wash, but I needed to click on these things because I needed to, you know. Then all of a sudden I'm getting all of these ads for, like, yeah, feminine wash. No, no, no. I want to tell Facebook or YouTube, like, I'm just researching. Okay, like, I'm not changing my demographic. But and it's like, here I really felt that um I get what advertisers are saying, that it really helps you target um new customers and repeat customers. When I had my when my son was born, or when she was pregnant, I've been googling a lot about uh pregnancy and childbirth, right? So all of a sudden I'm getting all of these new recommendations for ads, and maybe 10 years ago I really wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But then now that I'm looking at them, like, yeah, actually I want to know what the difference is between Pampers and Huggies, and I IQ, all of these EQ, on all of these other diaper brands and bottles, and so I feel like there's like that's the good side, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the other side, which is I don't mind having suggestions for, like, I think maybe commercial products. But then sometimes there are like a lot of dubious stuff that you see, like
Yeah.
as the documentary put out, like the flat Earth, and then the anti-vax. It's like we were. I'm not sure if this is a Pinoy thing, or versus, let's say, a US thing. Na, First Amendment rights and then freedom of speech. But then, tayo, we were taught, listen to your doctor. And we know, we got that. But then it seems like now that we're being exposed to so many more points of views,
Yeah.
which is actually not a bad thing if you think about it, you realize that, hey, I kind of get the context of what this guy is saying because he's from this rural area in, somewhere, and these things that I grew up with don't necessarily apply to him or her, right? So
Yeah.
everyone is now asserting their own opinion, and the way it the way it's affecting us as a society is that it ends up becoming a word war. Remember back in the day, like maybe in the 80s and 90s, we had this saying, and the saying was, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me." I think that doesn't
Yeah.
apply anymore. Don't you think
Yes.
so? Like it's an that I used to believe in that. Like, they're just words. Or you're being teased, or you're being bullied. No, no, it's okay because at least you're not beating me up. Or it's like, then you think about it now. Actually, wait, no. Actually, social media, because of social media, it's now the number one cause of depression because of words, right?
Absolutely.
So that to me is quite an interesting thought. I I've I'm I'm lucky to consider myself as being born in the 80s. So we were the last generation of kids who grew up without technology, but
Yeah.
also the very first generation to grow up and then slowly be integrated into technology. So I put it this way, like if you take away my phone, I'll find some other way to entertain myself. Yeah, I can pick up a book or a comic book, or I'll do something. I'll walk in the park. But it doesn't seem to be the case now with younger children, right? Especially the preteens, because they don't have a very good. They're not yet, they have no concrete sense of self yet. Like I don't know I didn't know who I was when I was 10 or 13 or 15. And if you were born at that time and are now being exposed to this at an earlier and earlier age, it's really going to be hard. So how
Yeah.
do you do that, especially in the Philippine setting? There's a what I forgot what country it was, but they mentioned that to them Facebook is the internet. It was in the documentary. Was it Cambodia or Rohingya? The yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the same in the Philippines. To many Filipinos, the internet is Facebook because you have the telcos that give free Facebook access, right? And if you click outside
Correct.
Facebook, if you click on a link outside Facebook, that's when you start getting charged. So
Yeah.
while I was heading social media for Manila Bulletin, we really thought that that was a way to suppress the truth. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
I see an article on social media. If you're fond of looking at conspiracy theories and misinformation, it doesn't really matter where you look at them. So people are going to start just posting them as a Facebook note, so it's going to be free. If you're a news organization, syempre you want people to go back to your website, and it's really the best way, right, to read an article. So people, so Bulletin, Star, Inquirer, CNN, ABS, GMA, we would publish, well, the facts, the truth. The problem was you'd have to click on the link and to go back to the website. But if you click on the link, it says, "Oh, you'll start to be charged. And these people have like 1 peso load. So you can't. So that the
Yeah.
truth is being barred from them inadvertently. Of course, Facebook wants you to stay in the platform, right? So the problem is,
Yeah.
you're making it harder for those that spent years and years of training to become journalists to let their profession shine. So that was a huge issue when we were attending all of these workshops with Facebook. So Facebook kasi has this thing called the Facebook Journalism Project, which is basically like an alliance between Facebook, Google, and a bunch of other tech companies. But I really want to highlight Facebook because it seems to be where everything else is happening. Eh. Google is a bit more
Yeah.
liberal when it comes to like information, but Facebook, the algorithm isn't. It tends to prefer certain types of articles. Eh. And we were telling them like, look, how can you say that you're a safe space when look at all the hate speech here, right? And they would tell us about, you have filters, you have all of those things. That it brings us back to ano ba eh, like who is responsible? Eh? Is it the media company on Facebook that should put up all of these filters, or is it Facebook itself, right?
Yeah, which is accountability, which is actually one of the things that they also brought up, right, in the documentary, which is who's accountable for it, right? And I love that. I believe that it was one of the guys who really put up that Humane Technology Foundation, right,
Yeah.
Tristan, which who said that the platform has to be accountable for it, the tech, because we create it. And I felt that that was such a bold but beautiful statement because we do have to be able to have someone
Yes.
accountable
I
for it,
feel
right?
that parang the burden is being put on the publisher to find ways to
Mm.
to fix itself, to avoid, like, I'll give you examples. When I was heading social back in 2013, what we did was, because that was the start of, all of the trolling and when Facebook was medyo becoming bigger and bigger, eh, 'di ba? So we would do um I would implement custom filters on the comment section of the page. Kasi, and then it's a dilemma. Eh. Do you allow freedom of speech when does your opinion, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, Bea. But does your opinion
Yeah.
matter? Does your opinion add to the conversation? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's that eh.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel na, yeah, of course you're entitled to your opinion. But in this case, does your opinion contribute to the conversation? Are you actually putting forth an argument that can benefit all of these other people commenting on the page? So what we did was, on the most basic level, was we implemented like a really huge filter on the comments.
Mm.
And this was actually recommended by Facebook. They had this list of words that can be banned. So it's copy paste. It's like hundreds of words. Of course, it's from the US, but you could. So I added a few from the Philippines. So certain curse words, certain politically incorrect words, or yung mga um, basta a lot of slang na back in the day, parang if people said that those words, it means this guy isn't really contributing. Nagto-troll lang to. As a result, it kind of
Yeah.
helped. So what happened was, medyo naging less yung comments, but all the comments were very good. Like, at least they all were, many were still disagreeing, but they were putting out very well, yeah,
Sound
sound
arguments.
in they, like, okay, this guy is obviously hindi to troll kasi he's adding to the conversation, and yeah, good points of view. So yun yung mga, like, but yun na nga, is that our job eh? Is that our job? Like,
Yeah.
kunyari, if someone in the comment section threatens another commenter on our page, is that our responsibility? Right? Like, kunyari, if there's an incident that happens in a restaurant, in a way, the restaurant is kind of liable, di ba? Because it happened
Yeah.
there. Parang does the same thing apply on social? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those were the problems. That's the dilemma that our
That's a
team, yeah, that our
dilemma.
team was tackling at that time. Like, who is really responsible for all of this? When actually, to be honest, we don't even know what this algorithm is churning out. We don't have 100%
Correct.
control of what other people see, right? Syempre, they introduce things like boosting, and they kind of give you an insight on the algorithm. But at the end of the day, parang ano medyo hilaw. It's not
Mm.
exactly the thing that you're looking for.
It's a tip of the iceberg, right? I think that that's what scares me, JV. That it's just the tip of the iceberg. Even if, like, I love what you said, kanina. What changed this documentary thing or conversation was that you have the developers, right? You have the developers, you had the big shots, right? Who were part of this big change, right? The development of the platforms, etc., etc. So hearing it from them makes it
Yeah.
real, right? Makes it more tangible, talaga. But then if if you think about it, it all boils down to the dilemma that it's so subtle.
Yeah.
The changes that we are experiencing and the like is so subtle, right? That it you rarely stop and think if there is a problem
Yeah, that's true.
or if there's a dilemma. Right? Like I think I mean, I loved what you said that this is a dilemma, but then as you were talking, I kept on thinking, wow, like what JV saying is like the dilemma is subtle the issues are subtle, and so you don't necessarily just stop and say, oh, that's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it makes you ponder, right? You don't lose sleep over it. You just say, huh. And then you sort of like let it go. But then like what you said, those were the problems and dilemma that you guys, were experiencing. And this was in the early days. Like when you said 2013, we think that that was recent, but if you think about it, that's 7
Yep.
years ago, right? And things were very different back then to how it is now. So, JV, you talked already about the Philippine setting, which I absolutely love, and you've shared very concrete examples of, things that you've experienced on ground. I want to talk about one of the things that you laid out very well earlier, which is really it's like information versus misinformation versus disinformation, aka sometimes fake news.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit more. Like, how do we tackle that? Like with not only with the documentary but with the conversation that the documentary put forth. Like, how do we tackle information in those three levels? Like, the basic, misinformation, and disinformation. What are your thoughts on
Ah,
that?
it's so tough. In a perfect world, in a perfect world, if you were educated, and you wouldn't have a problem distinguishing lies from truth. Uh, I like saying lie. I don't say fake news anymore kasi parang fake news, di lie, it's not true eh, di ba? Um,
Yeah, true.
I'll speak from the point of view of a media practitioner. So I'm no longer really an editor type, right? I'm not in the newsrooms. I'm more on the business side. But what really irks me, yung pet peeve ko talaga is yung mga social media managers, for example, or even reporters who use clickbait as a way to get people to notice your article. Kumbaga, you know how like you get the most controversial part of the article and yun yung headline mo. Or yun yung art
Yeah.
card, you make the art card and you put out a quote, but the quote is not complete because it doesn't add the real context of the matter. Then you realize, oh no, when you do that and then you read the article, that's not the essence of the article. Parang juicy tid, parang naging ano ba ta? Are you a news website or are you the tabloid? We have to keep asking that eh.
Yeah.
And I really feel that I like, in fact I do call it out on like some pages because parang that's on the level of journalism na kasi hindi na yan journalism eh. That's you're becoming the chismis writer, right? And
Yeah.
I really feel that that's as media practitioners yung role namin, is really to be able to distill the most important parts of yung truth, right? Um, ano na siya eh. Um, I get why there is a lot of distrust in the media these days because of things like that. Um,
Yeah.
I wonder what their newsroom policies are like. Like, does it really go through an editor? Or if you have a new reporter, what kind of training does this reporter go through? Like, why are you assigning these new reporters to, let's say, the Malacanang beat kaagad? You know what I mean? Or parang maybe you should start with something more objective, like crime. Things like that. Kasi crime, yun eh, diba? It's really who, what, where,
Yeah.
when, why, how. That's it. But then,
True.
but then when you start, ito nga eh. Here's my point eh. Um, Gonzo journalism sells. By Gonzo journalism is when the journalist puts himself or herself in the story, which is why the serial podcast is, si Sarah Koenig, which is why Vice Media, see, Vice is very good with that. Like, I am the reporter, but I'm part of the story also. Like, me being there has actually affected the story, right?
Yeah.
So, my presence actually influenced other things to happen. 'Di ba? Like, yun, yung sa serial pa lang eh. Nagkaroon ng prosecution after so many years, right? Na reopen yung case.
Yeah.
So, you really have to go back and ask eh, like, what is really our role as a media company? And
Mm-mm.
it's not an easy answer. It's something that you really have to look into, and like, what is my role in the company? What is the vision of the company? It's all that eh. That's from a media practitioner standpoint. Kasi more and more, ano na eh, gatekeepers of truth na kasi yung reporter eh. Diba? I don't
Correct.
want to talk
Mm-mm.
about like yung algorithms in Facebook at this point, because at the end of the day, whatever algorithm there is, kung reporting mo mali, then you affect so many more people. People, 'di ba?
Correct.
So, ano eh, um, which is why in a way I'm kind of proud na when people say, "Oh, it's lumabas to sa Manila Bulletin, therefore it must be true." Yung mga ganyan. So, that's what you're looking, that's what you aspire for eh. And I keep hearing those anecdotes. Oh, it's in Bulletin, so it's true. So, are you after speed to get it out, or are you after it being correct? In our workshops, those two things are always brought up eh. It's a matter of, should you be fast or should you be correct? Or what is the length of
Yeah.
time that you can allocate yourself before you put it out? At least to be factually okay. You know what I mean? Kasi
Yeah.
talo ka na eh. Lahat, lumabas na sa lahat eh, di ba? And then later on you realize, oh shucks, mali pala. Oh, what do you do? di ba? Oh, what do
Exactly.
you do? Mali pala. Oh, then you have cyber libel, all of those things, right? So what is your value when that
Correct.
happens? You're just like the chismis person. You're not a news website anymore. So I can't hold you to that na eh. Kasi wala, you just, parang tinitira mo lahat eh. Without really thinking. So I really feel that is one of the main issues as a news practitioner. I think also,
Mm-mm.
number two, sorry if I'm going on about it. Kasi
Yeah, yeah. No, I love
this
this
is really
conversation.
my thing eh. I really feel that newsrooms should really learn how to adapt to distribution. There's this ano eh. There's this saying, 'di ba, be? Parang it was from the BuzzFeed guy eh. Content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants.
For sure.
Parang like, yeah, I wrote a book and it's in fully booked. You can buy it in fully booked, but it's in the third floor in the very back. So you kind of have to find it. You know what I mean? Whereas when you enter fully booked, nandun na yung bestseller, yung merchandising sa harap, your book is there. So I
Yeah.
think uh newsrooms should really start to be more open to the younger generation, taking on the helms of distribution, like hacking social media for good,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to use notifications the right way. Kasi hindi nila alam to eh. But when they start to know, then they'll find more ways to distribute the truth. Anong sabi ng
Correct.
documentary? Parang fake news is 7 times more, can spread 7 times faster than real news, something like that.
Then the real, yeah.
Yeah. So the solution there is you gotta find other ways and better ways to let the real news spread. Eh. Parang,
Yeah.
pero mahirap talaga.
No, absolutely. It's really difficult. One of the other things that the documentary said, and I was like, you know how you're watching it and then you say no, but it's so true. Like at that moment when he said, truth doesn't sell.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't
It
sell.
doesn't sell. It's something that we've known forever. Like we that's something that has been passed on to you, and you gotta make things
Yeah.
sexy for sure. But then when it's called out like that, it's just like truth is boring. It won't sell. So you persuade people, right? Like that it was such a beautiful portion of that documentary. I wish everybody would watch it now. Is like the persuasive technology
Yeah.
and how it really does seep into what we do. And like what you said earlier, JV, like our question on accountability, etc., etc. At the end of the day, it's channel and content. Like I loved what you said about the BuzzFeed thing. Like content is king, but distribution is queen, and she
Yeah.
wears the pants. It's totally true. Like you need to be able to look at both sides, right? Like, sure, the channel is there, the tech platform makes it so much easier for these conversations to happen, to spread like wildfire and all of those things. But at the same time, how are you using the content? What's in your content, right? So it's like, are we sharing content that is factual? Are we showing or sharing content that will help other people or bring them down, right? Bring society down. I mean, there are so many implications on the world. Nako, JV, and dami natin pwedeng pag-usapan
Super.
dito. But, there's just so many different world views, point of views, perspectives that can arise from just this conversation alone, right? Um, I did want to ask you because we've been talking already about how news is being put out there, and hello, I mean with COVID-19 as well happening, we're in a pandemic, people are not exactly able to go out, and people are craving for connection. And of course, social media is there to be able to provide you not only the connections to your family and friends, but connections, quote unquote, to the outside world. So I just wanted to check in with you with what's happening now,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
with the pandemic, and with everything that's going on. How do we find the balance of being online but at the same time not letting it run our lives? Does it make sense? Because
Yeah.
I think that's one of the core dilemmas also of the documentary that it talked about. So what do you think?
You know what? I think in the documentary they mentioned a few things that you can do. There's one thing that I've actually been doing even before this documentary. Eh. Yung sinabi niyang turn off notifications.
Yes, I do that
Yeah.
too. Oh,
So what you can do is go to your settings and then notifications. I don't turn off everything, but I turn off a lot of them. Yung hindi mo talaga kailangan. And your quality of life online will really improve. As in super improve.
absolutely.
So that one I really believe I think okay, kasi like maybe for us older people, us talaga, 'di ba? Us older people, um I feel like we can control it more, but I'm more worried kasi about the younger ones, or like, syempre, they're exposed to all of this now eh. Like, one of the best pieces of advice that people gave as a parent, ha. I mean, you won't be able to take away the screen because that's, especially now, 'di ba? Yung screen na nga for school, 'di ba?
Yeah.
If you're going to choose between YouTube or video games, just get them into video games because
Yeah.
at least with games, it's you're not passively watching or tapping the screen. Ito, you're actively engaged. So like alam mo yun, I feel like I grew up with video games, and people are saying na remember back in the day, video games will cause ganito, ganyan, ganyan. Oh, guess what? Apparently it didn't. In fact, the World Health Organization says, video games actually helps you through the pandemic, and it actually helps you deal with stress and depression, which is true. I still play
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of my friends twice a week for like an hour, 2 hours, and we're all parents. So parang yun yung bonding session namin. It really helps a lot. So I feel that getting your son into your daughter or your kids into video games and you playing with them, I think that really helps. Because it does lessen time on social media or yung mga Snapchat or like TikTok ganun. That's one. That's two. Actually, the first one's notifications. That's the second one. Um, I think number three is really, try to find time to go outdoors more or travel more. It really helps, huh? I really realized that when you're being stuck in here, I miss going out. And why do you miss going out? Because you actually don't look at your phone. Diba?
Yeah.
So parang yun yung ano ko. Syempre now it's an unprecedented time because we're all stuck home. But I feel like taking up any hobby that can get you away from your phone is a good thing. In fact, actually may middle ground pa nga yan, Bea eh. For me, listening to audiobooks and podcasts or reading an ebook, yun yung middle ground eh. Sa totoo lang, there's no
Yeah.
algorithm there eh. Even in video games,
Yeah.
there's no algorithm being like, it's not tracking. Well, maybe it doesn't really track it that way. It just track, I played this long. Tapos. In the same way na, like, Audible just tracks that, this guy hasn't finished this book yet. He'll just keep recommending the book to, hey, finish your book. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, for me, yun yung okay na tracking eh. Because it's not invasive. It's just telling you to finish
Correct.
your book that you bought. Or like, hey, you still have 5 credits. You might wanna buy this book kasi yun, that's for me okay lang yan. And I think that's a very good middle ground between technology and like the real world. So yun, start like open up Spotify or open up let's say Stitcher, and then subscribe to some of the really good podcasts. Ayan, that's like in a day you can do 2 hours of just listening. Your phone is not even there. It's your phone's just somewhere, and you're just listening to podcasts and learning about new things. I think those three are four. Those are four examples, four tips I can give. Na practical, because you don't wanna completely be out of your phone, diba? That's impossible these days.
Yeah.
Ito nga yung
Yeah.
dilemma eh. How do you make it less addicting? I guess yun yung mga
Yeah.
solutions.
Exactly. Exactly. Jave, actually, I'd want to add a fifth one, right? Which I think, I think it's something that people started to do. And actually, it was also in the documentary, but I think that it's something that people should continue doing is to just have a wait time from your phone. Like you have to also be consciously doing that
Mm.
effort of not having your phone when you're having a meal,
Yeah.
right? When you're with your family or when you're with your friends. I mean it's been a long time since you and I have had, our drink or coffee or lunch together, but during those times we're not like on our phone, right? It's in your bag, it's in your pocket, or even if it's, the table, you don't pick it up because you're having a face-to-face conversation. So I know it's hard with the pandemic, but if you consciously also make that effort, diba, to say, hey, you know what, 12 to 1, family time, lunchtime, or alone time, no phone.
Yeah.
And literally separate yourself from the phone. I mean, share ko lang, JV, like I took up a certification program about 2 weeks ago, and it was so hard to do it online because you're also working from home, right? So you're on work mode, and your first instinct is to look at all of your screens. So when I was doing that certification program and I really wanted to concentrate, what I did was I literally put my phone in a drawer somewhere else in the house.
Oh.
Like, and I have to admit, the first 20 minutes, you're kind of like, I don't have my phone. I what if someone calls? What if there's an emergency?
You get anxious, no?
Or you're just used to seeing, you kind of get anxious, right? But then after that 20-minute mark, you're just like, oh my God, my life is just so much better without my phone. And then you forget about it. And then, it's a different kind of thing when, after 3 or 4 hours after that, and I saw my phone, I wasn't even like dying to know what was on it. It just felt better. I felt less stressed out. I felt less anxious. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but what I'm saying is, we also have to make that conscious effort, diba? To separate ourselves from the devices that we feel, is contributing to that addiction. So yeah, Jave, this has been such a great conversation. I mean, we started with just the documentary, and we've been able to like open it up to a lot of different things. And I absolutely loved how we were very pointed with a lot of the different issues that came about here. But if we were, or if you were to give folks like a food for thought, for the rest of the week, in relation, it could be about the documentary, it could be about the social dilemma on its own or whatever. But if you were to give, our listeners like a food for thought for them to really like sit down on for the week, on how this is affecting our behavior, our lives, our work, our worldview, what would that be? What would be that food for thought?
This is something that someone told me before. When we talk to our kids and we say, oh, you have to be a good boy or a good girl, they don't really understand what good means. What does it mean to be good? I think the best word to use is kind. You have to be a kind boy. You have to be a kind girl. You have to be a kind person. I think being kind is a more specific word. It's a more specific behavior. And I think having kindness go around social media with your friends, and whenever you see like a post that you don't agree with, always think about what's the kind thing to do. Not what's the good thing to do. What's the kind thing to do? Then you realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have posted that comment. Maybe the best way to have gone about it was to message them privately, say, hey, I know you're having a hard time. Something that I think kindness goes a long way because it's so, scarce resource na siya, especially online. So I think that's a thing. That's my advice.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, JV. I think it goes back. Like, I loved how, we were talking about something that's tech, that's on the cloud, but then we end that conversation with values, right? At the end of the day, what defines you as a person, whether it's at home, online, on ground, like, with people that you meet with yourself and whatnot, it's really kindness, right? And you need to be able to continue bringing that value into wherever you go. Like, I loved what you said earlier. We are all entitled to our own opinions and our own thoughts, right? And we love that. We respect that and we encourage that. But, how are you also contributing is the question, right? And kindness goes a long way. So JV, I think it's, at this point I would also like to share like my reality bite, right? Which is what we do here at the B2B podcast. For you, if the food for thought is really, hey guys, kindness goes a long way and we need to be kind wherever we are. The reality bite that I want to share with people is that there is a dilemma. I mean, it's not just the title of the documentary, guys. There is, a dilemma. There is a social dilemma. And this documentary and all the other documentaries about this particular, issue or whatnot are trying to tell us something, right? That there has to be a bigger conversation, that there has to be more information about it, that we should be more conscious about it. Like, it's not about saying don't do it, don't use it, right? Or whatever, because guys, technology rocks. Like, it helps us, it makes life better, it makes life more it's easier, more convenient, and the like tech is the bomb, right? Like, it's amazing, and we love it, right? But I think the conversation here is knowing what these social media platforms or channels or content does, right? We need to be informed. You need to know what happens behind the scenes. You need to know how this affects you, and ultimately how it affects the world, right? You just have to be more conscious about what goes on, and how it's affecting everything that we do, and take that information and take that knowledge with you, so that you also know how to consume it on your own, how you can be your own brand online or on ground or offline or whatever it is, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want is a society that is not only connected, but a society that helps one another, not bringing others down. So I think that, if I were to wrap it up, I think that, at this point, guys, if you've watched the documentary, watch it again. Let's have a longer conversation. Comment on our comment section. Like, maybe JV and I can do another round at this
Yes.
later on with your comments as well, right? I think JV would love that.
Oo.
I'm putting you on the spot, JV. but then I think, because we love talking clearly,
Clearly.
obvious naman.
We should have a Gen
Yeah,
Z
but then
person here next time to get their point of
correct.
view.
I think we should totally
No?
do that. Yeah. That's a great idea. I'm going to put that. But JV, I think a lot of people should watch it. Like, so if you are the person who has not watched it, please do so. I mean, not to just join the bandwagon or anything, but just be informed, guys. Have this conversation. Or watch it for yourself, or watch it and then talk to someone about it, because it's something that I just feel really should be at the core of what we do now, is to just really be more informed. And you know what they say, right? Knowledge is power. And I think that's what we need to do today. It's not about protecting yourself by not using it. It's protecting yourself by having the power of knowledge behind you. So JV, thank you so much for being part of this fantastic conversation. I mean, I'm sure you and I can go on and on and on, pero baka mga 3
Yes.
hours na yung podcast natin.
Like yeah. Like in our chats.
Like, yes, for sure. And I would love that, the day to come where you and I can do our own podcast session, that, we're face to face. But for now, people, let's continue keeping ourselves safe and following safety protocols as we battle COVID-19. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to our amazing guest who really, brought about thought-provoking ideas and perspectives. JV, thank you so much for joining us at B2B.
Okay, thank you so much. Anytime.
Awesome. And so, guys, on to the next episode. We're super excited to let you know more of what's in store for us. So please follow our social media pages. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn. So please don't forget to tag us. And of course, check out our wonderful website, www.teamasia.com. Once again, this is Bea Lim with our special guest, JV Fernandez, on B2B Breakfast to Business, with our conversation on the social dilemma discussed. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Monday morning and the rest of the week. And remember, knowledge is power. Thanks, guys. Bye.